All right, so I'm gonna write up the answers for number 1 so that you guys can check them. All right, so we're gonna plug 8 into F. What is that? 64 minus 24 would be 40. And then G of 40, negative 4 times 40 would be negative 160 plus 5. I got negative 155 for the first one. Is that yeah, okay, cool. Okay, that was A. All right, B. G gets plugged into F. All right, so a lot of negatives here. This is going to be 16x squared. You would have minus 20x and minus 20x, so minus 40x plus 25. And then I'm going to distribute the negative 3. What is that? Minus 28x and then plus 10. Do not factor it. I know a 2 factors out of that. I don't know if it splits then after that, but don't. Like, that's not what you're being asked to do. So don't do anything to that. Now, this way it'll be a lot less complicated. F gets plugged into G, so it's going to be negative 4 times all of this plus 5. So that's a less complicated problem. And again, don't split it, just leave it alone. Fear. Oh. All right, so onto our graphs. You have to start with the inside one. So looking at A here, which one's the inside? G. Can you watch me point to this? Because I'm going to have a better explanation than, hey, look, it's reading a graph. So you're going to do G of 0. You find 0 on the x-axis. What is that output number? 2. Remember telephone game? It's going to get passed along like the telephone game, and you're going to do F of 2. I need for you to write that. I'm not asking a whole lot, but I guess it's up to you. If you're like, nah, I don't want to write it. But if your final answer is wrong, I cannot do any partial credit. None. Like the whole thing will be wrong because I can't follow you. Okay. So F of 2, we're going to come over here, find 2 on the x-axis. Where does that hit the graph? Negative 2 is your final answer. So let's do the same thing here. You can use the same graph twice. That's fine. G of negative 1. Here's negative 1. What do we get out of that? 0. Gets passed along. So we're going to write G of 0. And I actually already highlighted that one. G of 0 is 2 right there. And then let's try one more. Which function do I start with on this one? F. All right, F of 4. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives us what? 2. So I'm going to write G of 2 is my middle step. Come over here to G, find 2, which is right here. And then find where that touches the graph. Is that 6 up there? So 6 is your final answer. Table is the same thing. You just have a table instead of a graph. Actually, these are even easier, to be honest. You would start with G of 4. What is G of 4? 3. Do you guys see that there? G and 4. It gives you 3. So that gets passed along. We're going to write F of 3. Write the middle step, please. And then you find F of 3. Are you guys with me? Negative 2. I mean, like, I'm just making sure. Are you all with me here? Negative 2. I don't want anyone to miss that because that's super easy. Okay. Thank you. Let me go back through it then. G of 4. Do you see how G and 4 matches up 3? Okay. So then I pass that along. I'm going to do F of 3. F of 3 gives me negative 2. Let's do another one. You're going to start with F. F of 1. Hey, guys, what is F of 1 from the table? 3. Good. You're going to pass that along. So G of 3 equals 0 right there. All right, and we'll do the next couple, and then I'll pause, and you can do a couple more. All right, here you're separating them into the outside and the inside. I usually do the inside function first. G is like the guts of it. Do not overthink this. For G of X, what is the insides? Yeah, X cubed plus 10, like that stuff, right? And then what's the outside function that is getting plugged into? Yeah, well said. Yeah, 5th root. It's not a square root 5. That's not a thing. 5th root of X. There we go. Thank you. Somebody said it right.
I don't know how I.
5th root. G is the insides. It says it right here. So G is the inside and F is the outside. All right, so what is the insides, like the guts for this one? Yeah, 5x plus 1. Basically, it's like the stuff that's there. And then your outside function is 8 over x. Good. This is like your quiz 2.0. Do you want me to just keep going with this, or do you want to try it? No, try it. Okay, I'm going to hit pause, take a couple minutes, we'll try it, okay? I'm going to write up these ones so you guys can check them as you're going through. That is for square root, is when we use that.
So it's, so then what was, is the not equal to rational?
Correct.
So would that be the problem for the first one?
So f of g for all of these. G gets plugged into f. I can see it. I can see it just fine. That happens to me a lot because I forget that you guys can't see it. All right, so this square root x plus 1 gets plugged in over here. It is going to look like this, and you cannot combine anything, so that's great. Just do nothing. Be lazy, all right? Does the inside function have a restriction? Yeah, follow me through that. Even if you think you got the right answer or I checked it, just stay with me. Yes. What does that mean? Keep it. Does the outside function have a restriction? As they both do. That's where you set up a problem. Hey, g of x, you better not equal 6 or else. G of x, I better not see you hanging out with 6 because he is a troublemaker and you better not be hanging out with 6. All right. So that's our problem that we set up. Then you just solve that. What would you do to get rid of a square root? Yeah, square. So x plus 1 is not going to equal 36. So x cannot be 35. Now listen, if you were like, hey, Miss Cole, that was too confusing, that's going to be a big old nope from me. Remember how I said, if you sit there and ponder long enough, you're all really smart. I bet that you'll come up with it. Can you look, just look, humor me. 35 plus 1, 36. Square root of 36 is 6 minus 6. I bet if you sat there and thought of numbers long enough, you'd come up with 35. Okay? Now, you also still have to keep this. So look, I'm going to write it wrong first. It is not this. This is really close. But what do I have to change so that I'm still keeping? Yeah, I can't start at negative infinity. I have to begin at bracket -1 because you have to keep that first restriction. All right, don't stop listening to me and don't talk over me, all right? G gets plugged into F. That is going to give you a big old square root. Underneath of it, you're going to have x squared minus 7 plus 3. Now, those actually will combine. Why is that? Yeah, they're both underneath. That's going to give you -4. I don't like my minus sign. Let me fix that. All right, stick with me. Does G have a restriction? No. Great. Shh. Does F have a restriction? Yes. Hey, G of x, x squared minus 7, you better stay bigger than -3 or else. That's, you have to be this tall to ride the ride. You want to be -3 or above. And then you just solve that. You just see what happens. You would add 7. That's going to give you 4. And then you would square root. Square root of 4 is 2 and -2. I brought this up when we did these. It looks like these little alien antennas. It looks like this. If you want like a visual, hold on just a second. Okay. If you need to know what it looks like, it's going to look like that. So it'll be negative infinity to -2 bracket. And then on the other side, 2 to infinity. Go ahead. Yeah, this is the answer. Square root of x squared minus 4. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, I did do the square root there. My bad. Thank you. All right, last one. G gets plugged into F. There's going to be a couple steps to this, so I'm going to write it down here. It's going to be 1/2, and then all of this squared minus 5. Now, the reason you have a couple more steps is because what's going to happen there? Yeah, those cancel. You would distribute the 1/2. So that's 1/2 x minus what? 4. Half of 8 is 4 minus 5. And so it would be 1/2 x minus 9. Okay. Did everyone follow me there? -9? That didn't sound like it went okay. Promise? Okay. Does G have a restriction?
No.
Hold on. I don't have everybody. Can I get everybody's attention? You need a collective focus. Last one, and then I'll give you a break, right? Does G have a restriction? Yes. What does that mean? Keep it. Does F have a restriction?
No.
Hallelujah. That means you don't set up a problem. You just keep this. Yeah. Heck yeah, it's that one. Okay. Yippee. So number 8, I'm going to just do A. We don't need to do B as well. We don't need to do both of them. I'm going to do this on my scratch paper. I guess if you write super tiny, you can maybe make it fit. But we are going to use composition. Please listen to me because this is a commonly missed thing. If the directions say use composition and you do something other than composition, I can't do any partial credit. And this is worth a lot of points because it's a lot of steps. I can't help you out if you don't do what the directions say. Composite functions are f of g and g of x. That's what composition is, composites. So for 8a, we're going to find f of g and we're going to find g of f. And we're going to show that they both equal x. The order of the steps is what's important. So you have to show me what order stuff cancels. And you also have to label. I know it sounds like me and super hateful, but you have to label them because they're different. One is going to cancel one way and one is going to cancel the other. So, and again, I'm not going to do B. I don't know why I even have that on there. Just doing this once is good enough. We don't need to do it twice. I should probably just take that off of here. All right, so for this one, G gets plugged into F. This entire cube root gets plugged in over here. So you're going to have 2 and then that whole thing cubed. And then what's still like tacked on at -9. You have to write every step. I know at this level, I always get some people, I could do it in my head. I can't grade what happens in your head. I don't have the ability to do that. I can only grade what you write down here, okay? And it's the order that's important. What cancels first? The 2, the 3, or the 9? The 3s cancel first. So you're going to need to write this. Because if all I see on your paper is a bunch of slash marks equals X, I don't know what order you did any of that in. Yes, go ahead.
Every single.
Thank you. Yeah, all 3 of them. All 3 steps, yes, is what I'm asking you for. This many. What cancels next, the 2 or the 9s? 2s. So you're going to write X plus 9 minus 9. And then it equals X. It's 3 steps. I'm not asking that much. If you don't write it, I can't see what order. Now listen, we did 3s, then 2s, then 9s. When we do it the other way, it's going to go 9s, then 2s, then 3s. Okay, so F gets plugged into G. This whole thing gets plugged in over here. So you're going to have a ginormous cube root. And inside of it, you're going to have all of this plus 9 over 2. It's going to happen in the reverse order. That should make sense. That's kind of the topic. Like, that's the takeaway. That's what I'm trying to, like, teach you. So what cancels first in this? 9s. Those cancel, copy everything else. It's not that hard. Thank you. It's not that hard. I'm not asking for it. All right, then what? The 2s. And then the 3s. And you know the answer is going to be X. I'm telling you ahead of time. That's the answer. Do you remember when we did the polynomials and the remainder was 0? Like, you know the answer ahead of time. You just have to show me the word is all it is. All right. Number 9, find the inverse, and then you're going to graph both of them. I do need scratch paper for this. And on the test, you'll have a grid. How do you find an inverse? Switch X and Y. Hey, I need for you to stop talking over me. We're going to switch X and Y. It would sure help a lot if there was a Y in the problem. So I always scribble out F of X, call it Y. So swap X and Y, everything else is going to stay put. And again, it's the order of the steps that's important. Now, if you can do a few of these in your head, I'll be able to tell if you're correct by the way your final answer is written. So I'll be able to follow you here. I still think you should write everything, but some people can unwind in their minds. So, you know, I'll be able to look at your answer and see what you did. What's the first step? Multiply by 2. See, this is what I'm talking about. If we multiply by 2, then what's the next step? Subtract 6. So like if you wanted to combine two things, I'm okay with that. Trying to save you some writing. Do you guys see what I did there? Multiply over the 2, subtract. Yeah, so if you want to do like 2 steps at once there, that's fine. Then, not yet. Divide by 5. And then go ahead. 5th root of the whole thing. And nobody said square root 5, which is good. And if you write y, completely full credit, because for heaven's sake, but I will be happier in my soul if you write inverse, because that's what it means. All right, so let's go ahead and make ourselves a grid. You're going to be okay. Do you remember me covering this up when I taught it? Like, hey, you don't even need this to do the graph. So let's not look at it. I don't want it to confuse us. I'm going to make a little XY table. If you don't want to do that and you can do it in your head, that's totally fine. Up to you. What is probably the easiest number to plug in? 0 and 1 are going to be the easiest ones. And then I'm also going to do -1. So we're going to pick easy numbers here. I'm going to do 0 first. And again, if you can do this in your head, you don't need a table. That's not required, but I'm trying to show everybody the problem. You ready? 0 to the 5th. 0 times 5 is, see why we pick 0? Plus 6, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Cool. Let's do 1. 1 to the 5th. 1 times 5, 5 plus 6, 11 divided by 2. That will be something and a half. Do you know what 11 divided in half? It's 5.5. 5 and a half. I knew what you meant. All right, now let's do -1. That's going to give you -5 plus 6. 1, so 1/2 or 0.5. I'll just put a decimal since I put a decimal for that one. Go ahead and graph them. It's going to look like a line, but you need to know that since it is to the 5th power, it is a wiggle. It's going to bend. So it's going to look like a straight line, but this is not linear. It's to the 5th, all right? So we get -1, comma half, 0, 3, 1, 5.5, and just make it wiggle. Should look like that. And then all you do is take your table, if you made one, and do what with the points? To get the other one, flip them. So instead of -1/2, you get 1/2 -1. Instead of 0, 3, 3, 0, and then you'll have 5.5, 1. I always have to turn the paper, so give me a second and I'll put it back. And it is not a requirement, but if you want to dot in y equals x so you can see the reflection, that just helps you like reinforce, hey, I did the problem right. Yeah, sorry. I just plugged 0, 1, and -1 into this, plotted them, and then I just swapped the points. Yeah. On the test, I give you all the space. I give you a grid. I give you everything. Here, I just try to conserve some paper where I can, you know. Is everybody okay? Okay. I don't want to rush you. I'm actually going to come back to number 10. I want to do 11 and 12 first because I think they're a little bit easier. So back down to number 11. State 2 different ways that you can restrict this. Do you remember us cutting the graph in half? I'm going to just off to the side, make a sticky note. We're going to visualize this using words like up, down, left, and right. How did this shift? Left 5, down 2. And it's also upside down, but you can do your imagination. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. Where is it getting split? Where is the center that we can split it in half? Do you guys see that? -5 is where that center is. So if I asked you for the positive half, what would your domain be? Try to just look at this part. -5 to infinity is one option. And then what would the negative half be? Look just at this half. Yep, -infinity to -5. So I would just off to the side, draw a little parabola, split it in half. One option is the positive half, one option is the negative half. Hey, Miss Cole, what if I wrote these on the opposite lines? Fine, I don't care. It's just the two options. Yes, and that's what a lot of people do. They'll just look at this and go, oh, it's -5 and split it at -5. That's actually what I want you to make the leap to do, but I'm just drawing a picture for you. So now this one, I'm giving you the option. Please choose the positive half. Okay. So where is this one gonna split? 3. I'm just gonna draw, I'm not even gonna draw the parabola. Do you see this dotted line here at 3? So what do we want our domain to be? If we take the positive half, 3 to infinity. Very good. I didn't even have to draw a parabola. You guys all made that leap. 3 to infinity. So when we do our inverse, you will eventually come to a fork in the road where you have to make a decision about plus or minus. And we're going to choose plus. Okay? So scribble out f of x, call it y. We're going to switch x and y. And find our inverse. These are the steps that usually go pretty well. So you have to unwind. What's first? +8. Yes, but we're eventually going to get to a place where we choose plus or minus. And because we chose the positive half, we're going to choose plus. That's what this tells us. Well, I didn't get to that step yet, so can you hold on a second? Okay, what's next? Now, I would not divide by a half. I would multiply by 2, and here's the quickest, easiest way to do that. Give it a hug, slap a 2 in front. Now, you can if you want to. I just wouldn't because it's more work, and I'm lazy. Now, square root. We're going to choose the positive square root. You can put a plus out front if you want to, or just nothing. And then what's your last step? +3. So I'm going to put that on the line over here. And that's it. So I'm going to go back and catch that one I skipped. You know how here I'm telling you to do the positive half? On that one, I'm going to force you to do the negative. All it means is when you work out the problem, instead of the positive square root, you're going to choose, it's the only difference. Okay. Do you see how I made the domain -infinity to 4? Okay. So scribble out f of x. I'm going to call it y. I know I'm not going to be able to fit this, so I'm going to put it on my scratch paper. We're going to switch x and y. We're almost done. Hang in there with me. We'll still have time to play a game. Switch x and y. And then what's your first step? We got 3 steps here. Yeah, and I would just do that. That's the easiest way to handle that. Scratch out the 1/3, put a 3 on the other side. Now, when you square root, you are going to choose the negative square root because I'm forcing you to do the negative half. Do you see this -infinity? Also, I'm telling you it's going to be the negative one, right? And then what's your last step? Add 4. So it's going to look like this. Yep. That's it. Negative means you do the negative square root, positive. And I always get somebody that puts a plus and minus, and I'm like, you didn't make a decision. You have to pick one or the other. Yes. If you see a -infinity, it's the negative half. And I'm telling you, the one I force you to do is going to be negative, and then I give you one where you get to choose. Please choose positive, is what I'm assuming you'll choose. Okay. Now, I'm going to also just like sticky note. Well, I'm going to not use my sticky note. I'll use my scratch paper. Using words like up, down, left, right. How did this one shift? Close. It went right 4. It didn't go up or down at all, did it? So what's the range? It would be what to what? That's a horrible gun. 0 to infinity. Good. And all you do to get the domain and range for the inverse is take these and swap them. That is it. So just flip them around. Just write them the other way is all that is. You are simply swapping them. Yeah. I drew a picture. Yeah. Yeah, it's a quadratic that went right for, and actually there's a vertical shrink by a third, so actually it would be like kind of wider, but I didn't really need that. The point is it's 0 and upwards. All right, number 13. Inverses reflect over what line? Y equals X. Now I said draw an example of it. I already drew one right here. Do you see this? I'm not going to draw another one. The way that is on the test is I give you pictures of graphs and I'm like, which one shows inverses? And you're going to pick the one that's a reflection. Do you get what I'm saying? A, B, C, or D. Okay. How can you determine if a function is 1-to-1? What line test was that? Yep, good. Well, it'll pass the vertical line test because it is a function, but horizontal line test. I mean, you're not wrong. It'll pass both of them, but horizontal line test. This says algebraically, if you remember what I told you, you don't have to do any work. It fails if you see what kind of power? Even. If you see an even power, it's going to fail because you end up with symmetry and it's going to fail your horizontal line test. Do you see an even power here? No, great, keep it. Do you see an even power here? Great, keep it. Do you see an even power here? Yes, we don't want that one. Cool. Last one. This is the thing we did last time. Remember with your relay? All right. First step. You're going to plug in X plus H. Now, why did I write it twice? Because it's squared. So you plug in X plus H to all of the X's. That's going to look like that. Plug in X plus H. What was step 2? Not yet. Yeah, subtract what? The original one. Now hold on a second, because that is the most common thing is people skip that. You will catch it because nothing will cancel. Do you know what I'm saying? These are very user friendly because stuff will cancel. Okay. Now the whole thing should be over what? 8. But I'm fine with you not writing that. Just bring it in, bless you, on the step where we need it. All right, so 3, we're going to distribute all of this. It'll be x squared plus what? 2xh plus h squared. Hold on, let's not, I'm going to try and save you some writing. Don't write the rest of that. Just go ahead and distribute the 3. That'll be 3x squared plus what? 6xh plus 3h squared. Cool. Now let's go ahead and finish the rest of the line. What do you get for this part? Yep, minus x minus h plus 4, and then x minus 4. Good, perfect. Call them as you see them. 3x squareds are gone. X's are gone, good. 4's are gone. This is the step where you bring back the over h. Okay, because I need to see it canceling. You have 3 terms left. What are we going to do? Take out h. Good. That will leave you with, this is GCF, 6x. Ooh, and this one's a little tricky. 6x plus 3h minus, good, over h. Show me that those cancel, and then this is your answer.
So on the bottom,